Okay, look, I guess next year we'll start a new season. Look, I'm really trying to be in production with this thing. So we'll do a new season. So while we'll probably keep the same theme music, I can change the things around. So you're gonna have to send me a selfie or something so I can add you into the.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Good. As I was watching that, I was thinking that, like, hey, this is an opportunity. Good morning. It's so good to see you.
Yes.
Yes. I see you repping.
Yep.
Look, did you wear it in the hospital too?
I sure did.
I love it.
And I talked to one of the nurses extensively about CDI, and then come to find out one of the cardiovascular techs um, is is trying to take a course so he can teach CPT.
Wow.
So it's people are putting on their entrepreneurial hats.
They better put on some kind of hat because it's crazy out here in these streets. It's crazy in these streets. Okay. This is fabulous. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. So, and to everybody else, welcome to our Saturday morning tea where we discuss health information, news, education, certification tips, entrepreneurship, all the things. Any of the things that come top of mind because you never know what may happen at the Saturday morning tea.
Yes.
I am Clarice Warner, the girl with the pearls, the founder and education director of the Professional Reimbursement Network, LLC, where coding education is key. And let me just ask you, do you know what it takes to be a certified, marketable, let me stress that part, marketable medical coder? Well, before I introduce my co-host who I miss dearly, let me share with you information on a free email course on the 5 steps to become a certified marketable medical coder. Are you interested in medical coding, but not sure where to start? And scared of wasting time and resources? Let me help you with the right steps to become a certified marketable medical coder. Learn more at bit.ly/5stepscoder. Yes, so if you are interested in learning more about what it takes to be a certified marketable medical coder in 5 steps, and you are in Clubhouse, feel free to click the link at the top of the page. If you are with us via YouTube, Facebook, and or LinkedIn, then check out the video description or check out the link in the video description box. So, wow, joining me today is my illustrious co-host, Mr. Jesse, the registered trademark, the coding nurse. Sir, you don't even know how many prayers I had all the folks. Hey, if you know the power of prayer, send up prayers for my co-hosts. We've been praying. We've been on the prayer line, telling what you want. We've been on that main line, telling what we wanted. But joining us is my co-host. He's back. Yay. Mr. Jesse. So introduce yourself and tell the folks all about you and whatever else information you want to share.
Well, first, thank you and everyone who prays for praying for me, because we know it works.
Yes,
and
it does.
Honestly, I was in the hospital, but to be honest, the best outcome happened. So I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
So, and I'm glad to be out, glad to be back. Um, I am the coding nurse. I got into the HIM industry in 2014 and 2020. During the pandemic, I created a company called The Coding Nurse, where I help other nurses and people with clinical experience to transition into the wonderful world of HIM.
Yes. And how is that working for you?
It is going well, but can I tell you, they just fight me tooth and nail.
Don't they
I have
always?
I got to drag them into their greatness, and they don't see it until they're there.
I love that. Dragging them into their greatness. I love that. I may have to use that.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm arguing with somebody. Let me help you let me drag you into your greatness. You don't even realize it.
Yes.
Just hold on. I'm gonna pull you. Come on. Just hold on. I love it. That's what's up. So today, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we jump in, let me remind you that if you are on Clubhouse and want to join in and add to the conversation, please raise your hand. Let us know. We'll be watching. We'll be monitoring. And don't be shy. This is not a place to be shy. This is a place to give your opinions, give your thoughts. You can even bring up a new topic if you like. This is the place where we put together to discuss all of the things in health information, things that, we may have come across, things you may have come across. This is where we chop it up. We spill that tea. So don't be shy. All opinions matters. Your opinion matters. And of course is welcomed here. For my Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn friends, you know what to do. You use the chat. So if you have a question, the only thing I would ask is that you put a Q in front of the question so we know that it's a question for us and we don't want to miss it. I know we only have a few folks that come into our chat, but I'm speaking it into existence. So when we have thousands of people and that chat is rolling, we can see those
That's
cues
right.
and we know how to do it. So let's get into it today. I know it is Christmas Eve. Folks are probably, well, I know around these parts with all this snow and barely above zero temperatures, it's real quiet. But folks are probably snug in their bed like I was all day yesterday. It was ridiculous. But hopefully everybody is safe. And like you said, tomorrow is Christmas. It's here. And then next week, the whole year will be over. Imagine that. How fast did that go?
Oh, it went incredibly fast. It was for me, I had a lot of takeaways.
Yes, we should do it. That's what we should. Well, I don't know. See, I got ahead of myself. But at some point, or maybe when we come back, we can do a year in review or a year in reflection or something to that extent. That'll be fun. Okay. So for those of who are joining us today, we are talking about the Department of Justice and how they are not playing with you folks in these streets. I also wanted to bring to your attention some changes that are coming down the pike for Medicare Advantage, and a wonderful thing that fell into my lap from someone I actually know. And she talks about, I called it a seat at the table. So it was conversation, if you will, from a conversation starter. She calls herself a conversation starter. And when I tell you this started some conversation, the conversation was started. So let me first talk a little bit about the Department of Justice and what is happening here. Oh, let's see. I got some comments in here. Good morning. Good morning. I believe that's Vicky, and she's changed her thing. I believe that's her. I'm gonna say Vicky.
All right. Thank you, Vicky. I am feeling much better.
Yes. Okay. And then let's see who else in the clubhouse here. Hi, Raquel. Hi, Cliff. Hi, Shay.
Hey, Raquel.
Hey. Welcome.
Hey, Cliff and Shay.
Again, don't feel free to come up to the stage, and we'll bring you up. We'll show you the ropes on the other side. Oh, Cliff wanted to say something. Did you see that?
No, all right, come on, Cliff. I don't see his hand up.
Oh, I just got a thing that said he wanted to say something. Hold on, let me go back. Good morning. You're muted.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you so much. I've always been listening to you guys, and you guys are very informative. So just keep it up.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I don't have to catch the replay. I still catch you.
Oh, I understand. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Well, welcome to the team. So, I don't know. So this is primarily, and I'll set the stage. This is primarily for my compliance folks, or those who are really, really interested in what is happening on the enforcement regulatory side of health information, and revenue cycle and all of those things. So, where where my fun is, where I like to dig and see what's happening. So we received a memo from the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, and she kind of builds upon what we call the Yates memo. So in 2015, then Deputy Attorney General Sally Quinlan Yates released her individual accountability for corporate wrongdoing memo. And when that thing came out, it sent shockwaves through the healthcare world. Folks were on pins and needles and on edge. Now, those who paid attention and read it and understood the ramifications were, I guess, those who were out there doing what they do, how they do, why they do, they just kept doing. But when they got caught up in the system, those of us who were quite familiar with what was mentioned in that memo kind of understood what those steps were and why things were happening the way they were happening. So our now Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco has released well, this is, I think, her second memo. So the first memo that she released kind of introduced us to the Corporate Crime Advisory Group and some of their initial revisions to corporate criminal enforcement policies. So this particular document pretty much kind of reinforces. I felt like Jay-Z, let me reintroduce myself. My name is the DOJ. Pretty much just giving you some high level information, and I think it's like this memo like 15 pages long, I believe, because I printed all those pages out because this is a reference for me. But she kind of spells out, look, we're not playing with y'all today, tomorrow, or ever. And let me tell you why and what's going on. So again, she kind of reinforces the guidance on individual accountability. At the end of the day, people rely on quality healthcare. People rely on providers who are truthful, who are doing the right thing. And if you're not, then you have to take responsibility and accountability for your actions. Even when you get caught, like, don't just be like, oh, well, oh no, here we are. No. At the end of the day, you are responsible. And so really, they just want to kind of let you know where they're coming from, why they're doing what they're doing, and what you can expect from the Department of Justice. So one of the things that they mentioned was timely disclosures and prioritization of individual investigations. And so really, when folks disclose information, it's not enough. They are happy to have folks come in and let us know or let them know what's happening and whatever. But it goes a little deeper. One, it must be timely because if you're doing it outside of a certain time frame, the person could have jumped ship, left the country, did whatever. So, once you understand or you see something is happening, and it could be a mistake. I mean, it could be a true, honest mistake. Somebody misread something or thought they were doing the right thing. It could be true. But once you find an error, once you know that, hey, we did this wrong, or we misinterpreted this, or we misunderstood, then it is up to that entity to then disclose and say, hey, and one of the things that I always recommended was, you disclose that information, you tell them what you found, you disclose the information, but you also tell them how you are making it right. look, we found this, so and so and so. We began educating our providers. We began educating our frontline staff. We've had these different sessions. We now are educating them, or once we found the error, we're educating them on what the appropriate rules are and what we're following. We're putting together our action steps. By this date, we plan to do this. By this date, we plan to do that. By this date, we plan to slide you that check or what have you. If that, all of those things are important when reaching out to the Department of Justice. And so that was one of the things that they talked about is, this helps that organization. This helps whether or not things can quickly, and when I say quickly turn left. And you don't want that left. You want to stay in the middle. So that's one of the things. They also talked about foreign prosecutions of individuals responsible for corporate crime. And so this is that cross the border stuff that, we have actually seen creeping up a little bit. And so they are getting in contact and partnering with for jurisdictions to make sure that, if folks need to be extradited, then those things happen and vice versa. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm leaving, I'm going over here, I'm going to this country, no, they coming after you in that country as well. Don't think that you're gone and you're out. No, they're doing the same thing as well. They also provided some guidance on corporate accountability and evaluating a corporation's history of misconduct. And Mr. Jesse, feel free if you want to jump in.
Oh, you
okay? You can jump right on in. So, and I've, it's not amazing, but you've seen in some recent reports from the OIG and Department of Justice, some of the same names over and over and over again. And so what they're trying to put you on notice is they're keeping a record too. Just because you might have been in this one report and maybe nothing really happened or nothing was really done. I mean, unless there was a repayment or what have you. But trust and know, they're monitoring that as well. And so they're looking at what is happening from that corporation and what is the culture of compliance within that corporation. Another thing was, again, voluntary self-disclosure by the corporation. That is key. That is something that they have talked about for many, many years. Just, it just let folks know. Again, it is to your advantage and to your favor to say, hey, we found it. It's better for you to find it and tell them than them to ask for it and find it on their own. Always.
The whole thing behind self-disclosure that a lot of companies don't understand is the government loves you to self-disclose because it saves them of two things that they have very limited resources of, and that's money and time. Because the government can find it. It might take them 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years, but they'll find it. And they have spent all this time, all this money to get where what you could have just told them and just had a very, very, very easy workaround or resolution. Mm-hmm. Because when they find it, I mean, they kind of nail you to the cross. Mm-hmm. So you don't have any wiggle room. But if you self-disclose, you can do a lot. They're very friendly in that regard.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay back money. It doesn't mean that certain things won't happen, but is definitely in your favor.
Right. And it builds a more amicable relationship. Right. The parties are not sitting across the table like me mugging and on defense. It's like, you're able to have that conversation. They're listening. They're willing to listen and maybe even better understand the why. What happened? How did you miss this? Or maybe their instruction or their guidance wasn't as clear as they thought it should be. So this gives, an opportunity for both parties to gain some takeaways from those types of conversations. So don't be afraid or shy away from disclosing and saying, you know what, hey, and maybe, you know, even saying, well, I didn't quite understand it that way. Is there a way that you can better, so that the masses, because again, you know, not everybody like me sits down and like goes through those reports and looks at stuff and like, oh, okay. You know, everybody doesn't have that kind of desire, if you will. But then, you know, there's opportunities for others who may be in that same field, who may be providing those same types of service, to learn and to understand or make sure that they firmly understand what the guidance is around those services and around the regulation for those services. The other thing was evaluation of cooperation by corporations. So not only are they looking at and checking to see, you know, what the history of that compliance with that corporation, if they are voluntarily or have voluntarily disclosed, but also are they cooperating? Because folks get in their feelings and they want to be 10 toes down in the sand talking about, no, we gonna stand our ground. Who? No, we gonna stand our ground and this, that, and the third. And I'm amazed, you know, and you know, it's attorneys' jobs, and I always says, you know, compliance and legal are not the same animal. We work together hand in hand, but we are not the same animal. Legal tells you what you can do. Compliance tells you what you should do. And so while it may be legal in or something may be done within the confines of the law, doesn't mean it's something that you should be doing. What do your policy states? What is the vision of your organization? Should you be doing that? And those are the things that, you know, from a compliance perspective, that organizations need to take into account versus, oh, well, we can do it. It's you know, the law says we can do it, so we're gonna go ahead and do it, and so on and so forth. Really? But does that, what is that beneficial for your brand? Is that beneficial for your customers? Do they be like, well, wait a minute, how y'all now gonna do this? This wasn't what y'all was all about, and now, you know, you done shifted gears all of a sudden. So again, making sure that you cooperate, is their organization cooperates, is another thing that they will be monitoring. Also, evaluation of a corporation's compliance program. You know, I was like, yes. And every organization, even if it's a one-man shop, should have some sort of compliance program. Understand what compliance is. Understand what the elements of compliance are. Understand how compliance helps you going forward in doing the work that you do, making sure that you stay within the guidance and the information and regulation of the government. So and the particularly the governmental payers, Medicare, Medicaid. This is all about the governmental payers, and TRICARE, of course. There's also some additional factors that they identify, compensation structures that promote compliance. And so making sure that folks, somebody not being paid X amount of dollars more than they should for services that they should or should not be doing. Or, you know, if folks are engaging in misconduct, that they are not monetarily rewarded. It gets real deep in this memo, and they outline all kinds of things. Folks, you know, it's they talk a lot about stuff being incentivized and all of the things. And so folks really need to take a look at their compliance program and make sure it's up to what the government expects. Other use of personal devices and third-party applications. You know, folks are coming in, and I know everybody has their own smartphone, or everybody has their own phone or devices, and they're coming in and plugging in and this, that, and the third, just making sure that the organization has all kinds of information and limited their use for, you know, make sure there's a clean line between personal and business. And making sure folks understand that if something happens, and I used to say this all the time, it used to drive my husband crazy because I would have mass phones. My purse would be full of phones, depending on who I was working for. Because I don't want my personal entangled with any of the businesses. So, because if something happened, there was an investigation, they can take your phone. They can take your, and they will take your phone. They will take your phone because there's a possibility they would have to go through and look and see if there's some conversation, some evidence that you text, you emailed, what have you. And so it's making sure that those lines are clean, always clean. Always. And I tell folks all the time, like, you shooting the breeze with your people and y'all saying, what y'all say and doing what y'all do. you about to lay bare all your stuff if you're mixing both personal and business. Let's see. They have independent compliance monitorships. This one I wasn't quite sure. Oh, they're not requiring an independent compliance monitor as part of a corporate criminal resolution. Okay, because I was like, I wasn't sure, like, what is that? But there are times when a monitor is important or appropriate, and they have listed in this memo when those times are. And there are 10 points as to when the monitor, when you may want to consider a monitor and when that's important. And then they go into selection of monitors, continued review of monitorships. And then lastly, it's the commitment to transparency in corporate criminal enforcement. And so with the Department of Justice, they want to let you know that they will be transparent. And I believe they have stood on this. They post, we see the stuff all the time. We're getting emails and notifications when their reports are updated, when enforcement actions have happened. We've talked about many an organization and corporation that we may have been familiar with that are now looking at some sort of Department of Justice enforcement. And so they have, make sure that they outlining the facts, make sure that they are giving the appropriate considerations, whether or not like the company voluntarily self-disclosed, if they were cooperative, if there were remedial efforts or there were no remedial efforts, and all of those things. And so they're letting you know that while this may have happened and may be happening, this is what the company actually did. They did cooperate. This was a result of a self-disclosure, so on and so forth. And so they are providing all of that information. Again, they just believe that corporate criminal enforcement remains central to preserving the rule of law and ensuring the same accountability for all, regardless of station or privilege. And so that memo is one that folks is in the compliance world is talking about in addition to the Yates. And so it's circling around in those worlds. And so I wanted you to know what is happening. These are things that you can take back. These are things, again, that makes you marketable. These are things you can take back. Hey, let's just make sure. Have you seen the memo? Have you heard the memo? You know anything about this memo? Folks may be more involved in other day-to-day operations and tasks and may not necessarily know that. So here's an opportunity to say, hey, this may be of concern to you. You might want to take a look and check that out. Go ahead.
I consider all this to be part of continuing education, because continuing education is not just CEUs. Mm-hmm. It is keeping up with changes in the industry, changes and especially regulatory changes, because that's what you're going to be bound by.
Yep.
So it is really, and I say it all the time, like people, especially when it comes to HIM and billing and coding, people do wrong because they want to, because the government makes it very clear what they're looking for, what the rules are, what the requirements are. I mean, they spell it out, and they have these documents to let you know, moving forward, we're going to be ratcheting up even more. This is what we expect. So all you have to do is refer to the document and just to make sure that you're playing by the rules.
Yes, exactly. Oh, there was another thing. So a couple of weeks ago, I talked about, I kept saying there was something I wanted to tell y'all. I couldn't remember what it was. And then, one, we talked a little bit about the OIG reporting on an audit that's starting about the overuse of psychotropic drugs in nursing homes, and they're really looking for low staff nurse to resident ratios, and how they're using the prescription as a way to manage the staff and keep folks drugs so they don't have to care for them. And so that was something coming out. The other thing was there's a critical care audit on the pike as well, and looking at 99291 specifically, and any documentation saying stable. So while critical care services, the patient should never be stable. There should always be some stuff going on in order to qualify that service as a critical care service. You know how these providers like to copy, cut, and paste. And so somebody may have said stable somewhere and copy, cut, and paste and putting it everywhere. Well, those cases, someone at some point should be making sure, monitoring that those cases are appropriately billed, because at some point they may not necessarily be critical care service. And the OIG is now starting to monitor that. So be on the lookout for more information and data as they start those particular reviews. So that's what I remember. I was like, it was something else I want to tell y'all. It was something else I want to tell y'all. And that was it. So the other part is, and I know you all who work in the inpatient world should be quite familiar with the 2 midnight rule, and how the stuff has just been all over the place with the 2 midnight rule. But let me just explain one thing. So, you have traditional fee-for-service Medicare, and you have Medicare Advantage. And while both of them have Medicare in the title, they are not the same animal at all. And traditional fee-for-service Medicare, pretty much the guidance is laid out, as Mr. Jesse said. They let you know. They tell you what the expectations are. They tell you these are the things you need to have. This is what we need to see. This is how you need to document, et cetera, et cetera. Medicare Advantage, on the other hand, are actually Medicare type programs that are operated by your third-party payers. And so their rules, regulations, denials, et cetera, are all over the place. And they not only vary from traditional fee-for-service Medicare, they vary between the payers. So one Medicare Advantage product from, I'll say, Humana is a totally different animal from Blue Cross and Blue Shield or Aetna. So they're all over the place. Well, folks are tired of the all over the place. and the government being one of those folks. The government is folks. They're tired of that as well. And so they're starting to make some enforcements of the managed care plans, and they're proposing several rules. One of them is that Medicare Advantage plans must follow traditional Medicare 2 midnight rule. And we talked about some of the other things that are coming down the pike. I think it was last week or the week before we talked about, and this is as it relates to IT and documentation and all of those things. But there's some more stuff. So they are proposing that the Medicare Advantage plans follow traditional Medicare's 2 midnight rule. They're also proposing that Medicare Advantage plans follow the inpatient only list and expedite any types of authorization. That's what we talked about last time, about what the changes in authorization, and just the whole revamp of the Medicare Advantage plans from a regulatory landscape. So this one of the things that I just wanted to mention. Like, yeah, they just been running amok and doing all kinds of things, and so it's difficult to just discern, like, well, is this going to be covered? Is that going to be covered? You don't know. And you would think, well, I have Medicare, generally this is covered. This is, I'm able to go into the facility. I kind of know, what my copays are, etc. Well, it's all over the place with Medicare Advantage plans. And so they just want to make sure that these plans are playing nice in the sandbox and doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, you carry the title of Medicare, act like Medicare in some respects. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the differences in those programs, but there should be quite a lot more similarities as it relates to payment structures and reimbursements, I think.
And I think the point that a lot of people miss when they think about the difference between Medicare and Medicare Advantage, because I've worked for several Medicare Advantage plans, and what I realized is the core difference is one is for profit and one is not.
Mm-hmm.
The government is not trying. The government knows they're not going to make any money off of Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
But Medicare Advantage plans, they do want to turn a profit, and as nice a profit as possible. So that guides a lot of their decision making, a lot of their policies, and just even in terms of authorizations. Now that the government is cracking down on and trying to streamline and regulate authorizations, it's because a lot of Medicare Advantage programs deny a lot of authorizations because they're trying to save money.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's more scrutiny being put on them, or will be more scrutiny put on them to make sure that authorizations are processed timely and appropriately.
Yep. And so this whole codifying these rules and regulations really just puts the Medicare Advantage plans on notice and let them know that CMS has been listening. They've been listening to all of the complaints, not only from the patients, but providers have been complaining as well. And they have been vocal in reaching out about what is happening and how their patients are not receiving access to necessary care because stuff has just been denied left and right. I mean, it's all over the place. So yeah, this is kind of just this again. This is proposed, and they're looking for additional. Anytime you have the proposed rules, they're looking for comments. So it will take effect if once they get all the comments and they go through everything. It will usually take effect in 2024 if it's finalized, and so there will be more to come on this. So, and again, I think stuff is just trickling out from all of that. Like we talked about the prior authorization and all of the things. So it's a lot going on for these Medicare Advantage organizations. So it'll be real interesting on what this looks like going forward. So that was the other thing. Now the thing where I need to make sure I got enough tea in here. Okay, yes. Where I got enough tea. So one of this lady comes from Ohio. Like I said, she called herself a conversation starter. J. Marshanae Rush, who is also in the health information space. She set off a blaze and was spilling some tea, and I wanted to share some of the tea. And she provided her perspective on something that had been going on and happening. So she had been interested in nursing. She kind of took the opposite approach. There's a lot of nurses that are exiting and they're coming over into the health information space. So she thought, well, hell, this is an opportunity for us to look at and see what that looks like on the other side. Maybe there are opportunities for folks who can get into the nursing field. So she said, and I'll read her post verbatim. It said, I posted about opportunities to obtain a nursing degree for non-nursing degree holders. Since that post, I've seen lots of upset nurses. I've read that these programs are pointless, dangerous, and won't solve workforce issues. And I'm wondering, why so much negativity? If you learned nursing in 2 to 4 years, why can't someone else? I wanted to be a nurse until I did clinicals and worked with other nurses. I hardly saw a happy nurse, and that discouraged me. Now I see nurses discouraging others passionate about nursing. Healthcare is not for the faint of heart. It's also not for a tainted one. I understand financial responsibility, but I also understand work-life balance. So as I said to others, I'll say it here. You don't have to be a clinical or patient care nurse. You don't have to stay where you aren't happy. It's okay to take a break, and it's easy to identify when a break is needed when you're so heavy that you can't help. I'm hearing some static, but
Yeah.
but pass your heavy to someone else. And so that was, wait a minute, let me see what's happening. Okay, maybe that's better. Is that better? No.
It is better.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So that was her post, and she had some comments. And we've been talking about nursing and all of those things from a health information perspective, and I thought this would be an opportunity to kind of talk through what she said on that side. So Mr. Jesse, as our resident coding nurse, I'll let you take a stab at it. And again, if anybody is on Clubhouse and want to weigh in, feel free to raise your hand. We will definitely get you up on the stage.
There is no other industry that gatekeeps more than nursing. It's not. Nurses think that they rule the world.
The world.
And I don't know what they think they learn, but it doesn't take that long because, truth be told, I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
Go ahead.
Me.
Well, let me
Okay.
pause here or mute. Okay. Is that better?
So what I have found through the years, okay, first of all, let's talk about these programs. There have been bachelor's to BSN programs for years now, at least 10 years now. So you only have to go 1 year, and that was a full year, and you only have to go 1 year and you get a BSN.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to ask yourself, what other program do you go for a whole year and you become a nurse, an LPN? And basically, these nurses have deemed these programs to be just as subpar as they deem LPN programs to be, or inferior as they deem LPN programs to be. And what I cannot understand is there's more than one way to skin a cat. There are core concepts you have to know as a nurse. There are some core skills you have to have as a nurse. And if you learn it in 1 year or 2 years, because the most it takes to become a nurse is 2 years. When you get a BSN, you're not in clinical for 4 years. You're only in clinical for 2. When you go to an associate program, you're only in clinical for 2 years. Mm-hmm. You have one class each semester. Mm. It's not like you're in clinical from beginning to end, and this is like nonstop. You're in the hospital for 3 years. Mm. No. Mm. So it's just foolishness to me. It's just gatekeeping to me, and they don't want. And I think the real pushback is coming from associate degree nurses, because then it's like, how can somebody who's not even a nurse come in and not only become an RN, but become an RN, be a BSN RN? So they're they're above them, and they're eligible for jobs now, because we talk about magnet status. You're eligible to work at hospitals that associate degree and diploma holding RNs can't work. So It's a whole yes. So it's a whole
Couldn't
thing
resist.
that nursing has done forever. They have, that's the reason why it's so hard to transition from LPN to RN because nurses have made it that way. And if left to their own devices, they would do the same thing with these other programs. But I think that that is another way around the nursing shortage. I think that's another way to address the shortage because you have a lot of people who have bachelor's degrees, and if they could go 1 year now, from what I hear, it's an intensive 1 year, so it's an LPN program. But if you can complete that program and become an RN and get a BSN, why not? And it's not up to nurses to decide how people come into the industry.
I, I agree. And my thing was the whole there's a shortage. There's clearly a shortage, and not in just acute um, medicine, but long term care, skilled nurse, all home health, all of the things. They're looking for, begging for nurses in these areas, and why wouldn't you open up the table? Why wouldn't you allow the people to have a seat and sit down and say, okay, well, I'm interested. I have my bachelor's degree in XYZ. Maybe this is the time for me to transition into something else. I mean, right now, folks are quiet quitting and being quiet fired and all kinds of things happening. And people, one of the things that, and I hate to say I'm cliche, but one of the things that the pandemic has shown is that people are really taking some inventory into themselves. Like, do I need this? Do I really want to be bothered with this? Do I have to be bothered with this? And the resounding answer is no. Folks are realizing they do not, and so they're looking and making other pathways and making other avenues for them to achieve whatever their goals are. You don't have to go the same way that our parents and their parents before them went. Time out for that. One of the things that I watch is how these millennials and Gen Zs works and whatever the generation behind them. And it's a whole different animal and ball game altogether. Because things, I'll be side-eyed like, you really gonna say that? You really gonna tell folks that? You really gonna come in here looking like that? I mean, it's a whole bunch of things, but they don't care. And they're passionate about what they do. They are knowledgeable about what they do. They know their stuff. 9 times out of 10, they know their stuff. They just project it and present it a different way, and have been taught somewhere somehow. I ain't gotta do this. I ain't gotta take that from you. I'm out. Deuces. Run me my coins, and I'll find some other way. And so the gatekeepers of old are them gates being moved over. They building. Oh, you want a gatekeep right here? Let me show you something. I'm either gonna build a tunnel up under you. I'm gonna go over on the other side. I may even fly my drone over you. Whatever. Those gatekeepers, it's not happening anymore. It's not happening.
Right. Now, Raquel wanted to come to the stage.
Come on, Raquel. Hi.
So, unmute yourself, Raquel. Raquel, can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. So listen, y'all are on one. When it comes to nursing education and changing that thing, I personally tell you, as a person who went to school to get my master's in nursing education, I kindly and respectfully stepped away from that thing. I decided to write what I believe is a design to rethink nursing education, one that is more focused on lending our ears to what's going on in other industries and complementing what we as nurses call the nursing process. Because essentially what the issue I find is the gatekeeping is actually hurting the whole entire nursing profession. Mm-hmm. Not me, not my personal opinion. If you look at the data suggests that nursing is pretty much dominated by white women, right? So some of what you're seeing in the gatekeeping is also people kind of being conservative and trying to reserve something and protect something that they think is for their best interest. So
Amen.
it rolls out in a way where it impacts all nurses. So many Black nurses, or non-white nurses may actually, they may actually sense that those kind of red flags and those kind of behaviors, because we recognize it when it comes into the racial issues. So, and the disparities there. So to make my point, it's like when you see the gatekeeping behavior, if it's coming from a professional standpoint, like what, people from a different discipline who want to come into nursing, it's the same method and the same strategy with gatekeeping, but now it's just turned on from a discipline perspective. So now it's like, okay, we're trying to keep these other disciplines from coming in, unless they see an opportunity where they could benefit from it. But most of them know they would have to go back to school. See, that's the problem. They wouldn't want to go back to school. They want things to be just the way it is, the good old days.
Yep.
And we find some of that in health information as well. but yeah, nursing is off the chain. And again, what struck me so much in what Jay Marchionnet had said was, we all know, and it's been publicized all over about the nursing shortage. So why wouldn't you welcome people to come in and assist in that shortage? You can't do it all. You can't, and so why not? Why would you? But it makes sense.
But Ms. Clarice, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, not to get all on my high horse, but isn't this the same thing that Martin Luther King was dealing with when he was trying to get the Black farmers and the white farmers together?
That's true.
That's right.
Even if it came down to the amount of numbers, and when you're talking about from an economic standpoint, even if there was a financial implication, they said, we'd rather be poor and see what the government will do for us and what our organizations we form will do for us than to align ourselves with people who we feel, because you have to understand that the financial implication is that people feel threatened by somebody coming in from a different discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
The nursing education and the curriculum actually needs those changes.
And to hear those diverse voices and experiences and understanding.
Of course.
Wow.
But there. Can you mute?
Go ahead.
Okay. There is another creator. There's another person on Clubhouse who has a nursing group. She had a bachelor's degree in biology, a full bachelor's degree in biology. When she wanted to become a nurse, her associate nursing program made her retake a 100 level biology course. You have a whole bachelor's degree in biology. So that means you have taken 400 level classes in biology. This program made her retake a 100 level biology course to get into an associate nursing program.
Wow.
That is ridiculous. But that's the gatekeeping.
Wow. Wow. That is crazy.
I don't get it.
That is bananas.
It is.
It is also the privilege that someone has the right or the ability to make it up as you go. Because you see, what you find out in the gate, when you talk about gatekeeping, you are talking about areas of ambiguity, vagueness, and on purpose. It's like you create this gray space where everything is subjective. So then people can say, well, we can admit you if you do this. Well, we can admit you if you do that. So what you're saying there in that scenario, Jesse, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That somebody would have to go through that, those exercises. But what it demonstrates to you is that the nursing shortage is not just simply nurses packing up and saying, I'm out of here. So you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
right.
even if that's not the full scope of the problem, we know that we have other elements, some low-hanging fruit that we could take care of, and then maybe we can look at data. Maybe we can look at numbers clearer after we take care of that low-hanging fruit.
That's good. That right there is good. That's good, because it's uncovering some things that folks may not have considered, and it's always focused on nurses and burning out and retiring and all of that. But what does it look like coming in the door? And to your point, I have a friend who is also, I think she received her master's in nursing education as well. And you'll be surprised at well, you may not be surprised. You may have experienced it yourself, but the gatekeeping that occurs even in the educational realm, they don't have enough nurses to continue some of these programs or to teach, but then they don't want it's not level set for folks to come into those rooms and sit at those tables to teach as well. So it's gatekeeping all around. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Wow.
The exercises of that kind of the commitment to keep people out is something that, again, like I said, even though you were talking about it from a discipline standpoint, because we're talking about someone from a different, process, a different system, a different theory of approaching, a need in healthcare, which is, that reimbursement piece, and, because we're talking about HIM professionals going into nursing. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where you can see like I said before, the red flags, because it's the same behavior. It's that lack of inclusion when you don't have a space for that inclusion. If from an IT standpoint, they would call that interoperability issues, right? Where you don't have systems that interface and communicate with each other to share information, to improve the flow of information, to ultimately improve healthcare delivery. So when you see it from, just from a human perspective, you look at it and you say, wow, these people would go through so much efforts. And I hate to say, when I say these people, I want to be clear, it is not just a race issue. It is the problem with gatekeeping comes oftentimes when you have individuals who they just want to be the speaker of a situation. They want to be the thought leader. They want to be the person that takes charge in a situation. And maybe they have a little club. Maybe it's about 10, 15 of them that can represent those voices. Like, you'd be surprised. The Interqual and what is that other one? MCG.
Yeah, Milliman.
The two,
Milliman.
ones that do the right. It's just two women standing over there. It's literally it's just two women standing over each of those programs. It's just two, like an individual literally saying, and one of them don't even have a clinical background.
Wow.
But you'd be surprised that it would be them along with maybe a team of 4 or 5 people just saying, we just want to keep things until we leave. They like the Congress, until we die out or leave these positions. We want things to stay just the way it is, without even in consideration. I mean, when you think about Intracrawl and MCG or Millen, whatever it's called their system of how they qualify, who can be admitted and what is appropriate, what indicators say a person can have X, Y, and Z days of services and what kind of services they can have and the level of, and when you think about the fact that you just have that one person over that whole entire program, it's like, again, it's people. I'm not saying that people need to be disrupting systems but when you have power isolated in little, enclaves and silos of people, it can be very dangerous. And of course, we see it in so many, situations when we hear of these people who are leading these big, huge companies, and you find out there's kind of discrimination. There's all kind of like lawsuits coming out about how they're treating the female staff or how they're treating somebody from the LGBTQ community. It's like when you start seeing that kind of stuff roll out, you realize like, okay, we can't have power just kind of like isolated to like, you know, these individuals or just a single group. You know what I mean?
But you know, I just want to give. I just want to mention or just piggyback just how. Let's just take the HIM industry. Let's take these people who have bachelor's degrees in health information management. They have their RHIA. Could you imagine how impactful that person would be if they became a nurse and worked with doctors? People always want to talk about clinical documentation improvement. What better people to really fully implement clinical documentation improvement other than people who have a true HIM background and are also trained nurses, and not the other way around where you have to make HIM professionals because they don't, because clinical documentation is not what it should be, because the people who have, like we said from the beginning, who have gate kept do not have the skill that is truly needed to really effectuate some real clinical documentation improvement changes. Because clinical documentation improvement has changes depending on where you work. It's not, they don't have the same scope. They don't have the same objectives, because clinical documentation improvement is not chasing the highest DRG. But that's what it has become, because they don't have the coding knowledge and they don't have the guideline knowledge to say to these providers, this documentation is not sufficient.
Yes. You better say that. You better say that, sir. That is absolutely correct. So you trying to tell me I need to go to nursing school for a year? No kidding.
And you know what the issue is? The issue with that.
I was just about to say that. Don't take my job away.
You know, the issue with that. The issue with that is that if you don't set, if it's about those, you know, qualifiers for someone to have a voice. And so what you do is you say that, oh, well, the HIM people, unless they have X, Y, and Z kind of specialty or X, Y, and Z kind of education, that is the only one that we'll listen to. So a person could have a wealth of knowledge, maybe 20, 25 years working as an HIM professional who wants to go into nursing. That alone should be enough. But if you make the goalpost, well, we only want to hear them if they're also a medical doctor or if they're also a nurse. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like there also has to be a space where people from that industry, the HIM, true HIM, as Jesse just identified, true HIM professionals being able to actually have a voice and looked at as, no, these are leaders. These are not administrative people. And I think that's some of the problem. If you start if you classify a group of people as, oh, well, they just there just to kind of help the money flow, then you don't realize that there's expertise coming from that space that actually needs to have a seat at the table.
But the thing is, the whole thing with that, Raquel, is in CDI, RNs have co-opted the space already. They have already.
Oh, I know.
They have
That's
already.
I'm saying what I'm saying because I know that.
And it's just, it's. I'm telling you. I mean, now that I have truly gotten on the inside and seen the inpatient and what all of it is really all about, it's just it's some BS. It really and truly is. It's I don't know. Oh, I do know. I mean, it all has to collapse. Then it has to be rebuilt because it is going to collapse. It's collapsing now, and they're just going to have to start over.
Yeah, and you see it. You see it. And to your point, Raquel, even talking about Milliman and Interqual, when and to kind of piggyback on one of the things we were talking about with the 2 midnight rule, and they were really clear because folks it was as clear as a bell to me. I couldn't understand what the problems were, but the problems were they were holding so tight to interqual or Milliman guidance, and CMS was real clear to say those are tools. That is not how you determine whether or not a patient needs to be admitted, whether a patient should be considered an inpatient. Those are just tools that you can use to assist in determining, or to assist the provider in determining on the status of that patient. But it's the Bible to them. And so that's where they couldn't understand, and the things were going all around. And it was like, if you take that concept out of the fray and say, no, this is how these are tools that will help me help this provider determine whether or not. And CMS is saying, you don't even need all of that. Is this patient going to be here for 2 midnights? If so, admit them. If not, observation. It's real clear. And so because it was so, to me, maybe it's just me, because that was so simple, they just convoluted it and made it so complicated that they couldn't figure out. And it was, I mean, the education and the information that was coming out about the 2 minutes, it was ridiculous. Like, we were constantly providing education. I mean, it was where the money resided. It was, it kept a lot of us in business, because they were kept coming back. Well, could you come back and educate them about this? Could you come back and educate? It was like, oh my God, y'all don't see this? But you know, it's ridiculous. And so if that's how they're holding on, well, clearly that's how they're holding on to even the profession of nursing, where they don't want to let it go. And I like your comparison to Congress, because hell, they'll die first before they let those seats go. People keep voting for them, they'll be there. Like, how are you 90 years old, ma'am and sir, and still in office? For what? I mean, do you even read the stuff? You just dare to be like, yes, no. I mean, I don't know. But at some point, folks need to really just take a step back and say, hey, you know, we need some new blood. And this may be an opportunity. This may be the get back on the health information. Oh, y'all want to come over here and do this? Well, we about to come over there and do that. What? Maybe there's an opportunity for that. But like I said, I knew a guy. He was in I think he worked in the supply. I think he worked in the supply chain. And you know, there's a lot of stuff happening in that space as well. And changes and layoffs and all kinds of stuff. And so he took into account what the future of that looked like and how things were shifting. And he kind of took a step and said, you know what, let me pivot. And he pivoted and went into nursing, and he got his nursing degree. Now, I don't know whether he's practicing in nursing. I don't even know if he actually sat for a license, but you got the BSN now. You coming in with BSN on your resume. And so people be like, oh, okay, look and see and whatever. And now you carry some additional weight or some additional clout with having that in this healthcare game. So yeah, there's some opportunities there for folks. And again, you know, I believe in, you know, move them gates out the way. Push them gates open. Do what you got to do. Yeah. So I thought that was all interesting. It was really quite interesting. And, you know, some of the comments, because there were a lot of people who have been interested, like, oh, and you know, there's money behind it. There were scholarships behind going back to nursing, you know, some of the incentives for folks, even in organizations. So if you worked in an organization that had experienced a high level of nursing shortage, they were actually providing opportunities. Hey, we will throw XYZ dollars at you if you consider going into nursing and doing and getting your nursing degree. So this is interesting. It'll be even more interesting as we transition over into the new year and see what happens. Hopefully some of these gatekeepers will just fall off and fall back, but you never know.
But I just hope that the people who are interested in pursuing a degree, especially a nursing degree, and they have an HIM or even another degree, I hope that they do it. Don't let anybody discourage you,
That's
especially
right.
a nurse.
Exactly.
Because nurses are notorious. I mean, I heard the saying almost 30 years ago, nurses eat their young, and they do.
Mm.
It's just, I don't, it's like the most toxic relationship I've ever seen. It's weird, but it's still overall, it's still an amazing profession because it's so broad. You can make it be what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like even getting back to the article was talking about, you don't have to be clinical. I've had people in my coding class who have their BSN and have never had a bedside job.
Wow. Okay. To your point, I'm like, don't be discouraged. And I've always, again, I'm an observer of folks, so I'll sit back. I may not have any, believe it or not, I may not have anything to say, but I'll but I'll sit back and I'll watch you. I'll watch how you move. I watch what you say. I watch what you do. I'm watching your body language. I'm watching it all. And in those situations, I'm determining. You're teaching me. You're teaching me what not to do. So if you're in those situations and you see to Jay Marchanet's point in her post, she's seeing how unhappy the nurses are and how they're treating people in clinical, then it's even more important for you to press on and don't let them discourage you, because somebody needs to see the opposite, and you can be that conduit to what it's supposed to look like. You can be the face of what it should look like going forward, and not necessarily having to focus on or see what folks are doing right now. Let's see, Jonathan said something. I asked my college advisor about what a crossover between an HIT, AAS, and ADN look like, because I heard so much about nurses coming over into HIM spaces, and they are coming in I don't think we have the same gatekeeping that happens on the nurses' end. I'll say that.
Because it's not reciprocal.
Not at all. Not at all. It's like come on in, welcome, take all the stuff, do all the things.
It's almost like the Indians in Thanksgiving. You better be careful who you break bread with.
Who you letting sit at your table?
That's right. Sometimes you gotta let people starve.
On that note, oh my God. Yes. Thank you, Vicky. She said the tea, plenty of tea was spilled today. Yes, it was. And so we are at the top of the hour, and this was a great session. I hope that folks are walking away with some things to think about. Again, these are conversations where, one, we bring you some information, but then we want to kind of flesh it out. We want to spill all that tea and see, well, what it looks like. And then from there, take some action steps. There may be some things that you decided, well, you know what? Because I didn't know that you didn't necessarily have to do anything at the bedside for that. That was a takeaway for me. So yeah, don't be surprised. No, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. We may be doing some other things. But anyway, thank you all again for joining the Saturday morning tea. Again, was the tea spilled today?
Absolutely, as always.
She said, Tasha, hey, Tasha. She said tea and coffee was spilled. If this information was valuable for you, help us share this message with others by sharing this video, sharing the conversation. If you're over on Clubhouse, you can share the conversation over there. If you are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, you can share this video with others.
Before we go,
yes, sir.
Quiet Storm, can you mute?
Mm-hmm.
Quiet Storm in the comments has just started the AAPC course, and they say thank you for letting me listen in. Quiet Storm, the best thing you can do to learn is focus on learning the guidelines for ICD-10, CM, and CPT. Coding is all about the guidelines. That's it.
All right. Well, welcome and
All
and good luck in your program over there. And Mr. Jesse is absolutely correct. Is there are the testing once you understand the concepts of the manuals, the how to use your manual, what's included in your manuals to get to that code. The next step is the guidelines and using your critical thinking skills to take a scenario and determine based on those guidelines what the appropriate code is. That's all those examinations are about. So good luck in your endeavor. So again, share the video, like the video, and of course you can subscribe to our channel, the Professional Reimbursement Network. You can also check out the Coding Nurse channel on YouTube. Last but certainly not least, to my Clubhouse folks, click on the greenhouse to join the fun in our club, and you will get notified of our live broadcast. So we will not meet next week. And we will start new and fresh in the new year. So the following week. So we'll be gone. We'll come back in 2 weeks, I guess. But again, if you click on all of the bells and whistles and clubs and notifications, you'll get the notification when our next show will happen. We are generally here on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, this has been a great session. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody. It has been wonderful, wonderful. It's been a great year. I love what we've put together here, and I don't see us stopping now. Hey, we're going to get bigger and better and greater and do all kinds of things. And so if you're interested in joining us, on our if there's some topics or something that you are interested in bringing to the group, let me know. We can definitely get you on as a guest. We've had plenty of guests within the last several weeks, and it's been fun. It's been great, and hearing other folks' perspectives, folks weighing in. It's just an opportunity to hear some more diverse voices in our professions, and just sharing is caring. I believe sharing is caring, and providing information that is needed for us all. And we all are in these professions that are lifelong learning, and we can learn and take away all the time. Mr. Jesse, did you have any closing final thoughts for today?
I just am glad to be here. I'm glad you created the space as always. And I just wish everybody a happy, healthy, productive new year.
Yes, yes. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens on the other side. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. So again, thank you all for joining. And remember, be safe, be kind, and don't wish for it, work for it. Until next year. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.